All right, well, in absence of a resume, why don't you begin by telling us a bit about yourself?
All right, well, I grew up here in Arlington. I went to school in Arlington, lived there my whole life. Kind of, when it came to picking a college, I was kind of between here and UT. I eventually chose TCU just because of the size, and I felt like they had a lot of programs that I could help distinguish myself. And I always knew I wanted to go into business just from family influence and things like that. So I tried to get into a business environment as soon as I could. I got an accounting internship in high school, and I worked there for 3 years. I then sought opportunities elsewhere at a bigger company and somewhere that I could get a better name on my resume. So I interned at XTO Energy, and I worked there in their revenue accounting department for almost a year, and then an internship became available with Luther King Capital Management, and I kind of decided I wanted to kind of get out of the accounting background and kind of more into finance, since that's what I wanted to pursue, and I've been at Luther King ever since then.
So you said you were interested in business because of family influences, but what is it specifically about business that you like other than your family influence?
It's definitely the analytical part behind business. I'm very analytically, that's what I'm best at. Math is all I've always excelled at math, and that's kind of it. And then, but also just the fact that business is a very dynamic environment. Things are always changing, and that's definitely what attracted me to investment banking in particular. Is that things are always moving, things are constantly going, they're changing, they're new, they're fast paced, and kind of got to hit the ground running. You know, you're surrounding yourself by the smartest people in the industry, and so that's kind of what led me there.
Those are all great buzzwords, but what is it exactly that you want to do and hope to accomplish in investment banking? And if you could explain to us exactly what your understanding of investment banking is, because it's a very broad term.
Definitely. Well, I hope to first off obtain a summer analyst internship, and that's where I'll get a good exposure to exactly what the daily routine is like. But from speaking with many of my mentors previously, I kind of know what I'm getting myself into. I know that it involves working 80 to 100 or more hours a week. It's easy to say that I'm prepared for that, and I think that I am, but until you kind of live that, you don't exactly know. So that's why I'm really hoping to get a summer analyst position, to kind of put myself in that environment and kind of learn and see what exactly is done on a day-to-day basis. I know that as an intern I would be kind of responsible for helping analysts and just doing anything that I can on a day-to-day basis, and putting together pitch books and helping analysts with models and things like that.
And when we do pitch books or we build models, why we do those? What are we fundamentally in investment banking doing for our clients?
Depending on the transaction, it could be an IPO, so you could be taking a private company public, or if it's an M&A deal, you could be valuing a company to see what they should sell it for, or what another company should buy it for, kind of the fair value of the company.
But how does that add value? I mean, how do investment bankers, what is the value add they provide to their clients?
I mean, they just provide the differential value that the company themselves may not have. Where, I mean, these investment bankers, obviously, this is what they do. Their job is to.
So you're telling me the companies go out and pay millions of dollars in fees to have that's it? That's the only value add?
No, I mean.
So this is a good, I think, time to just debrief a little bit before we dive too deep into the rest of the interview. This is typically how one of these interviews might start. It'll be 100 times out of 100, you're going to get the tell me about yourself. That's where you pretty much frame how you frame your narrative. You begin, this is where everything needs to be kind of cohesive. If you say one thing, if you tell us about your background, and then later we ask you another question, and it's completely different than or it doesn't really coincide with what you said earlier. I mean, there has to be a very strong consistency in your answers.
And I think look, we talked about this in some of the other sessions. We will hammer you on why investment banking, what does investment banking analysts do, what do investment banks do, what is it we do for our clients, what is a typical day or week like. And quite frankly, those are tough questions if you haven't had a ton of opportunity to speak to people about what it is that you actually do, because the number of times I get an answer of, well, I say, what's the typical day or week as an analyst, what do you expect you to be doing? Well, I think I'll get in around, 9 o'clock, and, I'll have my cup of coffee, and then I'll probably get on a conference call, and then I'll have a team meeting, and then, we'll probably be, working, meeting with another team, and I'll be checking voicemail or email, and I'm like, nothing you just said differentiates that job from 99% of office jobs. So it's easy to get into this trap of kind of using buzzwords and being very vague in your answers, and if you think that's not obvious to your interviewer, you're wrong. So that's why the prep before you go into the interview, what I'm looking for when I ask that question is nothing more than it's a chance for you to prove that you've done your diligence and you actually know what an investment bank does, what do we do for our clients, why we exist, and what you would do as an analyst. So, well, I think, in a typical week, I'm probably going to have 4 or 5 different active client project teams, and one of them we're probably getting ready for a meeting with a client next week. They're looking to grow, and they've asked us to identify some potential acquisition targets for them. So we're profiling companies, and we're trying to figure out who makes sense for them to buy. Another company, they're looking to access the debt market, and so we're working with our colleagues in leverage finance to think about if they can come to market under what kind of terms. And then there's another one where we're helping think through general strategic alternatives. And again, that answer is probably a higher, if someone gave me that exact answer, I'd be blown away, because that's really like, clarity. But I need something between that answer and I think I'll be in team meetings and checking email. And so you really kind of have to get an idea. And look, you're not going to know this until you ask someone. And that's what informational interviews and pestering your colleagues here at TCU that have done summers before and understanding what actually is the job and what a typical week is like.
Before you answer your questions, especially the why investment banking or equity research or whatever you're interviewing for, what I think we're ultimately trying to figure out, and a lot of times, is how you approach problems and how you think about them and how you solve them. And I don't so much care about your life history. If you feel like you're talking for too long, you probably are. It's really about, okay, I went to TCU. Well, why? I majored in finance and accounting. Why? I want to get into business. Why? As Lori followed up with, when Greg mentioned he's always been interested in business and the analytical side of business. Kind of touches the surface, but you really have to be thinking, okay, the interviewers want to know why I do certain, why I make decisions a certain way. And they're going to, they're taking my application of that and thinking, okay, well, when I give this analyst an assignment, how's he gonna, it's gonna look unfamiliar. 99% of the time, you're given something at work and it might be unfamiliar. But you have to be able to problem solve and think through it, and so we need to know how you approach problems. I think on the buzzword point, the flip side of the buzzwords, it's easy to drop buzzwords, but it's also very easy to have lofty, delusional expectations of what the job is. I can almost assure you, as an intern or as an analyst, you're not going to the CEO meeting. You're not going to be on the private jet most of the times. You're not calling clients. So when I hear those answers, immediately the interview's almost over. This person has absolutely no clue what he or she's getting into. So